the bottom. People call you the underdog. They think you're the underdog, but you're at the bottom. But we going straight to the top.
Straight to the top.
Today, we kings.
I'm a king, sometimes I feel like I'm petty. In the pits living my dream, I don't think that they ready. Yeah, Area 51 podcast right here. You already know what we do. We're gonna talk about a little bit of racing, and we're gonna talk about pacing back and forth. We're trying to figure out who gonna win and who gonna come at the bottom. Let's go. This is Cap Houston right here. Bobby, what you got for me?
Hello, glad to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Bobby. We've got Rob, we've got Dave, we've got Jessica, and we've got Bobby Gerhart. How we doing?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Thanks for coming, Bobby.
Doing
Dave,
well,
Rob,
but
Jess, how
extremely
you guys
tired. Doing well, but really tired. Sorry from the weekend stuff.
I am too, man. It was a awesome weekend. We
were at Pocono, as many of you know, and we were able to be on the side of Jeremy Clements race car this weekend as an associate sponsor. Justin and Rob can definitely vouch for that. When we showed up to the track and that beautiful car was sitting there with Area 51 Racing Podcast all over it. Dave, we still wish you were there, man. That was one heck of an experience.
Yeah, unfortunately, things happen that are out of our control, but I wouldn't have been able to make it regardless due to the situation.
Yeah,
but
I got you.
Yeah, I really wish I could have been there.
Well, this is episode 29 of the Area 51 Racing Podcast. We've got legendary retired NASCAR Xfinity truck ARCA Menard Series driver Bobby Gerhart. Bobby, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you called it right there. I mean, I came into the stock car series back in the 80s when there really was not a position for somebody to get started to do it, and oddly enough, the only path given what experience I had, and what I mean experience, what mechanical experience I had, was working on a Chevy V8. Although from the 60s, given a trip to Pocono opening day that my father took me and my brother Bill, it was embedded in me then that I was going to give it a shot to stock car race. And sure enough, my first race ended up being the Cup Series at Pocono.
So when was it that you actually got started in racing? And before you went on asphalt, you had a history in dirt racing, I believe.
Well, naturally, my father was a very, very successful, very talented local area dirt racer from, he raced in the Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York area. Lots of championships, lots of wins. Grew up, watching my dad have a legion of hundreds of fans that followed him race to race, even over the weekend. It was a very interesting time. And of course, when that racing gets embedded in you as a youngster, you're gonna start that way. And right out of high school, we ended up just putting together a '68 Camaro and went back to dirt racing and went from that to modified racing and it just the stock car thing was always something that I wanted to try, and the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it. So it was just something I stuck with.
Now, question for you: when you said that you started off in Pocono, can you remember back to who you purchased the chassis and body from, or did you make it yourself?
Sure. To be honest with you, it's not like I completely was blinded and walked right into it. I volunteered for a couple of years with Dave Marcus and went to as many races as I could. The drill. You're you're running on empty, putting a lot of miles on the road. But I met a lot of people, got a lot of contacts, and actually my first car that I raced for a couple of years ended up coming from Dave.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
that-
And at that time, Dave was a staple up until he retired. Of course, in the NASCAR, so a very highly respected, hardworking son of a gun. Maybe one of the hardest working men I've been around my entire life.
Yep, I've heard that from a lot of people down here in the Carolina area. When you go to the Hall of Fame and you talk to, some of the guys such as yourself that were back there in the 80s and 90s, a lot of them, bring up Dave Marcus, and I've had the opportunity to meet him twice over at the North Carolina Hall of Fame, and super nice guy.
Oh yeah, 100%. So anyway, I started my career at Pocono, just running. I think the first year we might have only ran a couple races. The next year I might have ran 4 or 5, and at that time at that time the sport was beginning to explode, so to speak, and it just got to a point where the resources that the average Cup team had compared to what we were working with, we were just tremendously outclassed, and it was impossible to be as prepared as they were. And of course, by that time, the ARCA series was transitioning over to cars that were extremely similar. A lot of people don't remember that the ARCA series predominantly was a short track Midwest series that ran basically short track cars at a lot of venues, including Pocono, and there was a lot of V6 stuff at the time, and of course that transitioned over into in the late 80s into a truck arm car that actually mirrored what I was doing, and it was just a good place for me to go to hone some skills. After doing 5 or 6 years of the Cup thing, I realized that I need to get somewhere where I can put a lot of laps on me and just learn the trade, so to speak, and the ARCA series gave me that opportunity.
Yep, and that was actually the first time that I'd ever been introduced to your name. My dad and the gentleman he worked for drove the number 13 ARCA R&M alternator and starter car, and that was the first time I had ever heard your name. I think you guys were running at Spartan Raceway up in Ohio, and that was the first time I was introduced to your name and what you had done, because my dad would point you out and say, that's Bobby Gearhart. He came from the Cup series, and that's who we're racing tonight. I mean, you were something, that was kind of thrown on me. Back in the day, you were already a legend. Going into, I want to say it was probably 89 to 90. And it was a really cool deal. And obviously, you don't remember, but I did get to meet you when I was a real small boy.
And not only that, what the cost at that point, what the cost of doing the ARCA series brought to the table, even if you could imagine the cost back then of trying to do a Cup race and the preparation for it, you could spread that across 15 to 20 ARCA races. And especially because a lot of them at that point, they had a very, very strong short track thing. And, they would do pretty neat things. I'd run a couple races in a weekend, and it was good for somebody that was looking for, the experience in a stock car. And it just, the timing for me fit right there.
So Bobby, how did Gearhart Racing come about? The family race team.
The Gearhart Racing, actually just an extension of what my dad did. My dad raced in the 50s and 60s. I retired in the year that I got started. So, there was a Bobby Gearhart Racing for sometime maybe about 55 years or so. You know, people look at me and say, "Oh gosh, I remember you back in the day." Whoa, 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 whoa. That was my dad. And but it just the name stuck. And of course, my father was extremely popular in the area, and we just tried to carry that on.
So being a family-owned team, and in your ARCA series, your ARCA career, you ran a select races throughout. How hard was it for you to get sponsors for those races?
Well, that's an interesting point, but I can answer it by telling you a little story. I think I realized early on, as expensive as this sport was becoming, to be competitive, really the only way that we were going to survive would be to be able to attract some support. And listen, to be able to bring a sponsor on board, no matter how much they invest in your race team, they're entitled to have some sort of return. And that return back at that time basically would come with some television coverage. And of course, ESPN was very involved for a long time, and some of the races were pretty sizable from a television exposure point. And it just got to a point where we really put our dug in our feet in the sand, so to speak, and said, look, we're going to slow my schedule down a little bit, but we're going to concentrate on races that have maximum exposure. And of course, nobody can argue the point that at that time it was Daytona. And I ran there since 1988. And I'm not going to say we had bad performances. It just we were a mid-pack car, and of course got in a lot of trouble and a lot of wrecks, and listen, it just to make a long story short, on a trip back from spending a night at the hospital up the street from Daytona after a bad wreck, my mom and dad were there. Mom and dad brought me back to the racetrack, and I'll just never forget this. My mom made my dad pull over. He pulled over in a Kmart parking lot, and I mean, she just drilled me. If you're going to do this, you're going to begin today. You're going to work every day till you come back here, start up front, win poles, and win races. And as simple as that sounds, we all get so busy doing so much other things that the most important thing can be so simple. And I started that and continued to start that. And it immediately turned our program around almost in a year. We came back to Daytona. It might have been in 90, either 7 or 98, qualified extremely well in the top 5, maybe third or fourth. And I thought I had the race won and had a mechanical issue, a shock mount or something broke. But we came back the next year, started outside pole and won the race. And that just happened to be a very, very big television day. And, we had some sponsorship issues working at that time. And I can just tell you that they took off from there. So our methodology on utilizing the biggest races, I'm not going to say can, and that's easier said than done. I understand that. Believe me, I understand that. But my race team, I'm not going to say suffered. It concentrated exclusively on doing those races and doing them as best as we could. And I left no rock unturned when it came to doing that.
Well, you have 9 career wins in the ARCA Menards series. 8 of those were at Daytona. Can you tell us the reason for all your success at Daytona?
Well, First of all, I understood the importance of that race, and having a platform in that series, when you are in front of the camera as much as we were at those races, it just allowed us the opportunity to bring on some support that allowed us to race the rest of the year. And no, we didn't have the budget to race every race like we did Daytona, but the ones that were so important to the sponsors were the ones that we concentrated on. And why were we good there? Because it was a relentless pursuit to uncover every aspect of what we were doing. Those 8 wins at Daytona, I believe we're done with 7 different cars. So
Wow.
we were constantly pushing the envelope with a new, a new tool in the toolbox. We tested a lot, rather than possibly concentrating on some of the other races. Look, I was a staple running Talladega because, to be honest with you, it was the only way that I really understood what I had. And as disappointed as I was in what we did for 10 years prior to a little bit of success at Daytona, I began to ask a tremendous amount of questions from some high-level people. And I'm not going to say it went well initially, but I finally got some information and some support to lead me down the road to be able to take a car and go test and run through the whole gamut and bring back whatever we had is as polished as it could be. And that came from, some support from Chevrolet Racing, and it just was installing a process in me that stuck for a long time.
So Bobby, a bunch of your car number is number 5. What is the significance behind that number?
Well, my dad had 5 children, and that ended up early in my dad's career. He had a few different numbers, of course, race drivers in the early 60s. Growing up, I can remember Thursday, my dad's phone at the house would ring off the wall. Bob, you want to drive this? Bob, you want to drive that? Bob, you want to drive this? And a guy like him, a successful racer, could run 6-7 races a weekend at variety of tracks in multiple different cars. And when he finally landed in his own program, his favorite car number was number 5. And ironically, it took me a long time to get number 5. The first race we got it, we ended up going to Victory Lane. How about that?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Bobby also drives the 85. If it was 85 in Xfinity and 36 or 63 in the truck, correct, Bobby?
That's correct. And those numbers came early on in my in the Cup career. I had number 25, and that ended up being shuffled around a little bit, and so I actually had number 85 for a long time. I'm not going to say that the numbers weren't important. The only number that was really important to me was number 5, and if I could get number 5 and stand on it, I think everybody around us, at least in our shop, was very, very happy. The 63 came from alliances with other teams, and I think you know the deal. When you do a part-time thing, it's just a combination of reasons that you do that for, whether it's a protection in rain or whatever. You put a lot into these cars and a lot of money spent, to go to a race and have it rain on you and go home is extremely disappointing. So a lot of those numbers that were shuffled around were because of that.
And you've raced everything from like Williams Grove to the Salt Flats. And
Oh yeah.
compare those two to ARCA and Xfinity and Truck now. Like, what do you think? What was your greatest memory? You were with the late great Bob Keselowski out at the Salt Flats. How great was that to do something of that magnitude?
Bob and I became good friends. We raced together in, we raced together for maybe 10, 11, 12 years. And he's probably one of the only, maybe one of the only drivers I can remember ever having an issue with. And that goes on both ways. And I don't know that we ever really traded any pain. I think I always carried a lot of respect for Bob. And of course, after he retired, his hobby was the land speed thing. And, we chatted about it multiple times. And whenever I would get to Charlotte, I'd spend an afternoon with him, and he'd share with me where his car's going and what he's doing. And finally, when I turned 60, he called me on my birthday and congratulated, naturally pulled my chain a little bit and said, "Listen, old man, I got a present for you. Why don't you come out to Bonneville and I'll let you make a pass or two and get your license and run." Of course, just a tremendous experience. If anybody has the opportunity to go to Bonneville, it's something you'll never forget. You see more hot rods and more muscle machines than you could ever imagine, of all different aspects, from motorcycles to antique cars to rockets to stock cars. If you're a motorsports enthusiast and you ever get a chance to go to Bonneville, you would never ever regret it. However, we both ended up running somewhere around 270 miles an hour on that one day, and that's just an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just about ready to say, dude, what were you running at 270? Was it a push rod car, or were you running
it was actually one of Brad's ex Dodges that Bob had just, Bob was a true engineer. And when I mean, he was one of the most knowledgeable people when it came to understanding what you're doing, the mechanics of it, the numbers. He was great on a computer. And he tinkered with this car for 3 or 4 or 5 years. And I know they were happy when they ran over 200. And, he made a lot of changes to the car before I was invited to come out, and he was expecting that we would break 240. And just the changes that he made a tremendous difference in speed in the car. And a little story there. Before I could actually make my pass on the big course, I had to run the short course, which is just I think maybe 1.5 miles or 2 miles instead of the 5-mile run. And I had to get suited up, and they said to me, "Well, you're going to have to run 140 miles an hour." I said, "Man, how am I going to do that?" No faster, no slower. You're going to get 140. That's what we need to see. Okay. Well, Bob and his mechanical ability just gets on his phone and starts pumping numbers. And in 5 or 6 seconds, he says, "Well, you're going to have to go 5,350 RPM. And one of the friends that I took along with me from Pennsylvania, I looked at him and I thought, "Really? How you going to do that?" Well, we ended up putting the phone on the dash, turned the GPS on. So it was like a speedometer, right? Well, sure enough, I got to 140 miles an hour and glanced at the tach. Bob's spot on. Right on the money. And then that led then to 180 miles an hour. His calculation was perfect. Then 200. And after I hit the 200 plateau, then I got an A license that could run that. Of course, things change when you're going to run 250 miles an hour. The whole process changes. The element of something going wrong changes. And of course, I really just thought, look, this thing's just felt very balanced, very stable. I really didn't have any idea how light on a sneakers a vehicle is to be able to do that, to be able to accomplish that. And that's a compliment to Bob Keselowski. this car was perfectly in balance. So I'm sitting in the car just maybe 20 seconds before we're ready to leave, and Bob comes over to the window, leans in and says, "Hey, listen, pal," he said, "a smart guy, once you get in fifth gear, would put his hand over there on that red knob." And I'm thinking, yeah, why? Well, he said, you get to a point with these cars, the wind can turn you around like that. And sure enough, when you got over 200 miles an hour, this thing, the car will just move 20, 30 feet side to side just with the wind, just with how you're hitting the wind and what the wind's pushing you. And he's had several instances where car got turned around, and your saving grace is to pull the chute. Naturally, when you pull a chute, it just puts the car in a forward direction and will keep you out of trouble. So, I mean, that was the last thing I needed to hear, going ready to make a pass at 250 plus. But I listened to what he said, and believe me, I made one pass on the long run, and the only really thing that you can notice over a certain speed are the markers that they put up, which I'm sure everybody has seen them, but they become visible to you, and you can almost count them down or count them up. I think they were counting up to the 5 mile marker. So at the 5 mile marker, that's actually the slot that they time you for your fastest speed. And of course, that's a shutdown area for just about everybody. And you believe it, you're in a really bright, sunny day running on salt. Believe me when I tell you, it's the brightest thing you can imagine with the sun hitting that white salt. So at the end of the 5 mile run, the white turns to black, which is shocking because, of course, that's just when everybody pulls their chute, all the rubber getting forced into the salt. Of course, you're just laying rubber down, just like they do on a racetrack. However, I went to the 5 mile mark, and the tires spun on this car. That's how light in the sneakers it was.
Oh, wow.
And at that point, the next quarter mile didn't mean crap to me. Believe me, I pulled the chute. I was looking for the chute, but what a fantastic experience. And to those guys who do that, I know what we do as racers, sacrifice that we make to go to race multiple weekends. Keep in mind, most of these guys drive across the country for an event that they have absolutely no idea if it's going to happen or not. Just a little bit of rain or the wrong temperature, the bed never dries. And I think Bob went 2 or 3 years in a row where he made the trip out there, never got a chance to get the car out of the trailer. So these guys that do that put a big sacrifice on. Fortunately for our weekend, we had a beautiful weekend. It was very hot, very cold at night, very hot during the day, and the track was beautiful.
Now, not only do you own your racing team, but you also own Truck World, located in Lebanon, PA. What's the difference between being a business owner and also running a small independent race team?
Well, first of all, listen, if you don't treat a racing career like a business, you're not going to race long. And that's just the truth of it. And I realized in the late 80s that here again, looking at the cost of motorsports and where it was headed, I had to be able to, even if I was going to help support it myself, which I did for a long time, I'm going to have to put myself in a position where I can support myself to do this. And in the early 90s, I actually took a hiatus from racing because I made a major investment in a 6-acre facility right along a major highway in Lebanon County, and it's a 6-acre facility. At that time, I did not have any tractor trailers. A racing career, I think I had a small truck and trailer, just like a lot of guys at that time did. However, my vision was, I'm going to need a place that I can pull some rigs in and out of. And sure enough, I called it right. Before I knew it, things took off, and gosh, there were 2 or 3 tractor trailers around there, just racing rigs. So it turned out to be a good thing. And looked at the truck business and racing are I'm not going to say very similar things, but they actually go hand in hand for a lot of things. You follow me? People that frequent the business, so to speak, the majority of them are always race fans, and it's worked out very well.
He also owns a used car lot, 5 Points, correct? With
Yes, and
Billy Button.
when I moved from the facility I started at in the early '80s and moved to where I'm at right now, I continued the used car lot that was there, and it's still open and selling used cars today.
Now, just a question for you. Do you know of anybody, or do you still have any of your cars?
Any of my cars from what, sir?
From your or ARCA Xfinity
Oh, sure.
truck?
Yeah, I probably still have 15 race cars or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have just one of the winning cars from the Daytona thing that I'm little bit at a time. We're completely restoring it, and it's going to end up in a museum somewhere, I'm sure. A few people have requested it. It's just an element of time, that's all. But oh yeah, I still have quite a few pieces.
Yeah, because we were talking to Mark Martin just a couple weeks ago, and he was still trying to hunt down some of his cars, just because, I guess at Roush, they would take the cars, refurbish them. There were chassis numbers, but as far as actually getting a complete car, it wasn't like today where if you did something special, you got gifted a car.
That's correct. Yeah.
They would just use them, abuse them until there was nothing left of it.
And I think, listen, I think we all get, those of us who have done this for a long, long time, you just overlook maybe the importance of a special car. One of my special cars was actually the first car that I won Daytona with, and a very unique story. But a friend of mine in Indiana, an ARCA friend of mine that I raced with for many years, had decided to sell out, and called me, and he said, "I've got some items here you probably use." He says, and of course he's trying to drum up business for his sale. Do you follow me? And he had a nice crew cab dually and trailer and shop equipment that I ended up buying on top of it when I was at the sale. He had a Speedway car there that Ronnie Grayson had just put a body on. And if you knew anything about Ronnie Grayson, he just had a signature look to his cars. And I just built a brand new Laughlin car that was not even on a racetrack yet. And this car that Dale Whittemore had looked like its twin. And I thought, man, those cars really look pretty, both of them. His car looked absolutely gorgeous. Of course, I needed a third at that time, a third Speedway car. Like, yeah, you know where I'm headed. But anyway, I didn't need another car, and I had no intention of buying it. So the sale was over, and I bought a truck and trailer and some equipment and things of that nature. And nobody even bid on this car. Maybe because the number everybody thought was so high. And Dill said, you got to buy this car. And I said, I got 2 problems here. I don't need it, and I don't have the money. What problem how many more problems do you need? And he ended up throwing a number out that was that inexpensive. And then he said, no, by the way, put in your trailer and pay me when you can. Now that just doesn't happen, right? So I thought, well, Jesus. I called my brother on the way home. I said, guess what? We got another Speedway car. As it turns out, this wasn't just a Speedway car. This was a very special car. And as time grew, and I first looked at the car, I knew it was a Hendrick car. And I had no really idea of the history of it. But not only was it a Hendrick car, it was the most intricate Hendrick car I've ever seen. And at that time, the car was not a new car. It had a few years on it, but it had a lot of very unique issues. As it turns out, it was the first car Hendrick ever built. It was chassis number 1 out of that shop. So as my relationship with Hendrick grew and I got more and more information about this car, I really thought to myself, this car really belongs to them. It means more to them than me, although it gave me something special. It gave me the opportunity to go to Victory Lane at Daytona for the first time. But I decided to give it back. And unfortunately, I'm not going to say unfortunate, but I did it in a way that I didn't want anybody to know it. And I took the car back and put it in a restoration shop a week or two before that plane went down. And of course, what a shock to everybody. I personally knew 5 of the people on that plane. They were my direct contacts for a lot of the business that we were doing and things that I did for Rick. And a very unfortunate thing to happen. Of course, I knew the car would maybe just go away. Well, I was wrong. 4 or 5 years later, Rick's son-in-law called me and said, look, we need to have a conversation. And I thought, oh boy, is this good or bad? He said, you brought this car back and I have no knowledge of it. I said, well, I had to tell him when I brought it back. And it just wasn't a conversation I was going to be able to pick up. Do you understand? And so after, he was very emotional in the phone call, and as time went on, they restored this car in the next couple of years and gave it to Rick on his 25th anniversary in motorsports. And because I was there, it was just really a neat deal, but it's now in his museum. And then I found out all the history in the car. Rick actually ran the car. Many drivers ran the car, but it just, we all have a special car. That was one for them. I know it was.
Now, is that the white and red car that was restored?
No, that's the car that I gave back to them is a silver kind of Days of Thunder looking car that has Hendrick 25th anniversary on it. But the history on it, naturally, Bodine, Rick, I'm not sure what other drivers ran it, but even for them, it got to a point where engineering exceeded what they were doing with the car.
Gotcha.
And as it did for me also, but a very, very solid race car.
But I was only curious because I'm right up the road from Mooresville, and I've been to that museum quite a few times, and it might have just been one of those cars that I don't want to say I looked over, but now it gives me something to look for when I go.
Well, it'll be there's the last time I was there was a plaque in front of the car, and it gives the history on it, including a long list of drivers that ran it. It's only Victory, however, was us at Daytona, but it just that car started the long success that we had at Daytona, to be honest with you. and we learned a tremendous amount from the car.
That's a piece of history, of racing history, that a lot of people obviously don't know about, and thank you for sharing that with us. That's just amazing.
Yeah, it was really a neat story. I mean, it was if you were there and in the inner circle, as I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to, it was a very emotional moment, given a lot of the things that happened with that race car. But these cars, all the cars are special, just like you were talking about Mark's cars. They kind of mean something. And I actually even think Mark might have been there that day. I think the day of his 25th anniversary was the first introduction to Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Hendrick Motorsports. And I think Mark was still there. Yeah.
Yeah, so he would have been driving your number 5 car.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep.
Bobby,
So-
you've been awfully quiet.
I'm just taking it all in.
I know. What a history lesson. I'm in awe.
Yeah, I am too. I got chills when you were telling that story about the history of that car. I just like, that's why I said that that's so cool that you shared that story with us, that, you know, we're all race fans, and that's the type of cool stuff that we love to hear, that, you know, if you don't hear it from the people that experienced it, it doesn't get passed on, and it just, you know, goes and never goes forward. So that's just a cool story. Same thing like when Mark was on, he was telling some stories to us too, that it was just cool, just as a fan, sitting here listening to him talk about back in the day and stuff. So I really appreciate you doing that. That's just like I said, I got goosebumps. That was so cool. That whole story.
Yeah, I have a beautiful picture in my showroom of Rick and I standing by the car, and people glance at it. Is that Rick Hendrick? Yeah. Is that you? That's it. Yeah, that's Rick and I standing by our car. To be honest with you, it really was. Yeah.
He was
Just-
he
car-
seemed like he was the original used car salesman.
Well, very special man, I can tell you that. Just very, very special man. We became friends a long, long time ago, and to be honest with you, without Rick Hendrick as someone in my corner, it probably lengthened my career, I would say 20 years, and I mean that. Like I said, in the late 90s, I was beginning to get frustrated with some of the things that happen when you're a small race team. You know, you build one engine and it works perfectly. The next engine is an identical duplicate, but it's a dog. And you have the same components. How can this happen? It's just and for a small race team, you know, it's hard to sometimes overcome that. So, you know, out of maybe a little bit of frustration, I reached out to Rick for some advice. And, you know, at that time, you were very lucky to get Rick Hendrick for 3 or 4 seconds of time. And he would just, you know, yeah. He said, I'll get back to you. Well, sure enough, he'll never forget you. My phone rang one day, and it was Rick, and he just says, you know, do you believe in pre-made marriages? And I said, I think so. And he said, well, he says, I want you to write this phone number down. And he put me together with Jeff Collins, who at that time was a Hendrick employee and but anyway, Rick had a little bit of a different, I wouldn't say motive, but agenda. He had some things he needed to get done too. Unleaded fuel was coming into the sport, and it was, he needed an avenue to be able to develop some of these things and count on him to go 500 miles. So Rick, given the fact that I was disappointed with what I was doing. Rick actually put a little engine program together that I had the opportunity to have cutting edge stuff. And it led to be honest with you, it led to what you saw at Daytona and the super speedways for the next 12 years.
Okay, so you're kind of an alliance the same way that like Mr. Nemechek was, and just kind of a Hendrick subsidiary, running new stuff, trying to figure out what was going on.
Everything was under contract. Their interest was the parts that failed. Do you follow me? And,
Yes, sir.
and if there was any failure, and we all have them, it adds to them opening up a little bit different avenue. And we were doing some things that were maybe on the edge, and on purpose, so to speak. Which them trying to win a cup championship, they couldn't risk that. And the program that I did for a few years for Rick, the driver development program, was indicative of that. Had a lot of development stuff that we were utilizing. They flew engines to Harrisburg. I had to pick them up, run them for a weekend, and have them at the airport on Sunday evening so they could take them apart Monday morning. And a lot of extra work. However, to be able to have that level of interest, in our team was a big confidence builder for us.
So
Now-
besides Mr. Hendrick, who else in racing did you have, or did you have a relationship with any other people, I should say, in the industry like you did with Mr. Hendrick?
Well, Rick was certainly my biggest. There's no question about it. A lot of people probably don't know this, but Richard Childress actually, utilized us to start Clint Boyer's career. And Clint actually was in a car that I think I don't remember, but I think he might have been in the car that I won with in 2002. And it was just, I think, given the nature of how the sport was, it was easier for even a big team to take all the things that needed to be done to be competitive in an ARCA race at Daytona, but to keep them out of your shop. So your focus needs to be on what it should be, which is your cup team. And that's happened a lot over my career. Another unique story. Stuart Hawes called me, I think, in either 2010 or 2011, and we were developing a new car for actually a year or two at that time. I think it was his second year and maybe his fifth or sixth test. And they needed a slot for Kimi Räikkönen to go through the ARCA race at Daytona. And Joe Custer and I talked in detail about this, and I prepared a car for Kimi to come to the Daytona test. And it was a car that I never raced. And to be quite honest with you, I thought we had it figured out, but the earlier performances at that car with me in it, I was not happy with it, not happy at all with it. And it's not that it wasn't fast. It just wasn't fast for long. Car was extremely fast. So we had made some changes, and I thought we were in a much better spot with the car. However, a week before the Daytona test, Joe Custer called me and said, I got bad news. The Kimi Räikkönen deal fell apart. And of course, he wanted to know what Stuart Haas owed me financially to go this far. And I said, "Oh, no. We're don't worry about that. It needed to be done anyway." So the car was actually completed at the time, ready to go to the test. And I think at that time, I was unsure which one of my 2 winning cars before that I was going to run. But I knew I wasn't going to run that car. So we ended up taking 4 cars to the Daytona test that year. And a good friend of mine, Damon Lusk, I think we all know Damon, had him come to Daytona. And only because, one guy can only get in and out of so many cars at a time. So first day of mid-morning, Damon gets in the car that Kimmy was going to run. And I said, we need to get this thing as good as it can be. Who knows? Maybe the deal will come back. These things go on again, off again, on again, off again. Damon runs 4 or 5 laps and comes in and pulls me inside and says, "What's the history of that car?" I said, "We really have none." And he said, "That car's the most unique thing I've ever driven." And as it turns out, we pulled all the sheets on his lap times up, and at that point in time, that car was as fast as the last car that I had just won with and just made a lap. The cars were almost a ditto. However, the engine in Damon's car at that time was noticeably down power-wise from the other one. The car was that special that it just was an outperformer. And so, of course, what we did, right? We took the best motor I had in all the cars. We pulled it out and put it in that car. And sure enough, I set the fastest lap of the weekend with that car. We come back and went right to victory lane with that car. And of course, Joe Custer called me after the race, congratulated me on the win, and I had to share with him that was the car that we prepared initially for Kimi Räikkönen. So sometimes when you're in a mode of just trying to do better, I'm not going to say it happens by accident, but like I said, we were constantly pushing the envelope on building new cars and doing it legal. None of the things that we did were illegal. I spent a lot of time trying to understand the complete technical procedure that went on in that garage at that time. And if there was an ace in my pocket, I think I understood all aspects of what you were allowed to do inside that rule book. Of course, any gray area was mine, and I took it. And that's really what racers should be allowed to do. That was the technical side of the sport, which I really, really enjoyed. I put a chassis dyno in the shop myself, and listen, I was the guy that it was into our carburation. I bought a flow bench from Bob Blake and spent a tremendous amount of time on this restrictor plate stuff. And at the end of the day, it all comes down to where do you want to run good at? And if you want to run good at a place that puts a plate on, well, then you're just gonna have to do some homework. And we did that. We spent hundreds and hundreds of hours building different exhaust, burned all the paint off my dyno. Do you follow me? And we were we were at it pretty hard.
So I know that you guys are currently looking for drivers to race your car.
Yeah.
How would somebody be interested in contacting you for that?
Well, they can actually look on a website. I think Jessica puts herself out there to be reached. Listen, things have changed. there's no secret to that. Every race team is in a little bit different spot and wish they would be in a better spot. And I can tell you this, and related to a business. Every business has a cycle, and that cycle is going to be good. And you know what? It's going to be, I'm not going to say bad, but it'll have a downstroke to it. And there's no question that things haven't gone well for a couple of years, just by the car counts and maybe the strength financially of people that are going to, support a race team. And that's where this all comes from. And I see that side of it has been a real challenge for a young guy to get started. For a young guy to get started, let's face it, at the end of the day, no matter who races or where it comes from, somebody's got to pay for it. I mean, you don't run a race for peanuts anymore. Those days are gone. The cost per race, with everything involved, the factors just to get there, the support you go through, the people that you need, what hotels have gone to. It's unfortunate to some degree, as someone who saw the other side of it. But I think what we're going to see, a resurgence in our economy after November, and it may take a little while to get the bounce. But I think when it comes back, it'll come back in a big way. But to answer your question, if somebody wants to get started and somebody wants to, get in a stock car and begin to have a career, they need to understand that first of all, this is a business, and the business has to be funded to some degree.
Right.
Whether that person needs some short track experience and there are other avenues for somebody to get stock car experience rather than, wow, we're going to go out to Daytona. And look, there are legitimate race drivers who would not qualify to make an attempt to race at Daytona. So depending on someone's history when it comes to experience, and all that has to be tabled. So if somebody is serious about wanting to have a stock car career and is conscious enough to understand that this is a process and not an easy one,
Mhm.
my phone's there to be called. So
Well,
I'd be
they can
glad to
contact you. They can contact me on Facebook, contact you Facebook through Truck World. That's the best way that we can tell them, and just to see what you have available and just keep ringing us. You know what I mean?
No, Jess does your public relations and stuff like that for you, right, Bobby?
Yes, she does.
Okay.
Yep.
So just want to let the viewers know, obviously, we know Jess because she's a Jeremy Clements fan, and actually she was in Pocono this past weekend with her son Lee and hung out with us, which was a lot of fun. But just wanted to let our viewers know that she's on tonight as part of your race team as her PR person.
Well, listen, let me just tell you, every team has valuable people that are involved in it. And it takes a very committed effort, as you guys will understand, from a lot of people. Look, Bobby Gerhart was the fortunate guy that got a chance to sit in these cars and maybe take the accolades, but I've been blessed by being surrounded by some very special people who were as passionate as doing this as I have been. And this does not happen without that. And success doesn't happen without that. But I do. I mean, I get a lot of calls from from young racers, and you have to be positive. You just got to lay the cards on the table. There's no magical direction or no book written for anybody to be successful in a stock car career. I mean, that's just, as we all know, they all comes from different avenues. They can be legitimately talented, and go right up the ranks and get right into a cup car. A lot of it, to be honest with you, in my gut feeling, a lot of this whole thing is timing. And sure, to be, at the Xfinity or the Cup level, there's got to be a certain level of talent. There's no question. However, that talent has to be driven by people that can keep that talent there and keep that talent focused. And to be honest with you, the financial pressure that it takes to drive a team is usually what a driver doesn't need to deal with. So it's a double-edged sword. But we have plenty of platforms with the cars that I have to do some entry-level stuff, to possibly get somebody the seat time that they need to possibly be able to run a speedway. So I still have a group of 8 or 9 steel body cars that are great short track or intermediate cars, and of course they're not legal to run in pretty much any NASCAR series right now, but they're great. It would be great cars for somebody to get a lot of experience in, and that's what this is all about.
Yeah, seat time is the most important thing.
It sure is
for drivers.
Yep. And look, and that's really to be honest with you, that's why I went to the ARCA series and just ended up making a career out of it, only because I think till the end, I looked at myself and felt that I needed all the seat time I could get. So like any other sport, it's hard to do it part-time. It would be hard for a professional golfer to golf part-time. And this is no different.
Yeah, you also have to be on top of your game and work on your craft. Otherwise, somebody else is going to leave you in the dust because they're going to be working harder and stuff. So, yeah, I absolutely agree with 100% what you just said.
Yep.
Mr. Gearhart, I do appreciate you being on the show, and it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you and hear all these wonderful stories. I wanted to tell you that.
I could keep you here for days, to be honest with you. I could. Those were just some of the small ones, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Well, we'll have you back on the show again so we can hear more of those awesome stories. I mean, like I said, we're 100% race fans. That's why we started doing this podcast, and we love hearing these stories and sharing, and being able to share the information so the sport of racing continues on for generations. I mean,
well, I think I'm not going to say that this is something that people lose, but sure. The cars are the cars, and the engines are the engines, and the equipment is what you need. But this is a people business, and people make this sport happen, and people will make this sport continue to happen. So there are some absolutely fantastic people in this sport. As somebody that sees a whole different side of people in variety of occupations. Yes, we're all competitors. And yep, there's times where, guess what? You're not going to be happy with the next guy. But I can just tell you that no matter what happens at the racetrack, if there's a race rig along the road 10 miles up there that something happened, you'll usually see race rigs surround it. And I think we've all seen that. So, this is a people sport, and great people have brought it to where it's at today and will continue to bring it forward.
Yeah, I agree. Bobby and I and Jess were this weekend hanging out with Jeremy Clements Racing and his partners and stuff. And like Bobby said earlier, our podcast was an associate sponsor on his car this weekend for the Pocono race, and we got to see exactly what you're saying. When you surround yourself by good people, good things happen, and it was amazing. Just an amazing experience, just seeing everybody, just not just Jeremy's team, but other teams, how they interact and talk with one another, and it was just, and I even seen that when I was part of a race team at a local grassroots level, sharing if somebody needed a air filter or whatever for their car, here you go, give us one the next week or whatever. It's that type of stuff that a lot of people that are, are race fans, they don't get to see behind the scenes, the relationships that are made and stuff. It is a really cool sport to that point.
Yep. If we had time, I could tell you some stories of way back in the day in the 80s that, and it was no different then. It really was no different then. Of course, the amount of money that everybody had at that point, that doesn't mean they weren't as gracious to help one another. In fact, I think it was more prevalent than even with guys lesser financed and lesser magnitude to the whole thing. But it's been a great ride for me. I enjoy doing it. I think we all need to do things that keep us focused and energized, and racing did that for me.
For the last question I have, what platforms are you on social media wise, and how can fans follow you?
Well, I do not do a lot of social media, only because I think as a businessman, I'm very involved in what I do, and there are people that spend a lot of time on social media. I'm not going to lie, I probably spend no time on social media.
I do his social media. I do the Bobby Gerhart Racing fan page on Facebook. He does have a Facebook, but he's never on it. So they can either reach me or they can go on the Racing Group fan page on Facebook and see stuff there, or just go to BobbyGerhartRacing.com, basically.
Yep. Basically, absolutely. Yep.
Next time I'm in PA, I'll get a hold of Jess and I'll swing down and see you.
Look forward to it.
So, Bobby, it was great having you on, and we will definitely have you back on in season 2 to
Yeah,
talk
thank you.
about
Like I
more
said,
stuff.
been my pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Mhm.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
night. Yep. Good night.
Take care.
Good night. Thanks, Jess. All right. Well, Bobby Gerhart, ladies and gentlemen, that was a really good interview.
I think,
that was some information. That was
Yes.
history at its finest.
Absolutely.
I'm not kidding you. If you could see, I still have goosebumps from that story, the chassis number 1 with the Hendrick car, and how he gave it back for the 25th anniversary. And that just, that's the type of stuff that I love hearing about and talking about. So, yeah, that was cool. Definitely a good interview, and glad he was a guest. Him and Jess were a guest tonight. So,
All right. So, segment that episode, that segment was brought to you by Alliance Driveway Solutions. Right above me. Second of all, I'm going to bring this up now. We have stickers, and they are $8 a piece, and they are going like hotcakes. So if anybody is interested in one, get a hold of me, Rob, or Dave, and we can get those to you. Like I said, they are $8 a piece. Anna did a great job on them. They came out absolutely fantastic. I think I have left about 20. She's gonna make another 75 to 100, and then we'll go from there.
I think we might kill poor Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anna makes the cups, t-shirts, whatever you pretty much can come up with. Wanted to give her a shout out real quick before we jumped into segment 2 with Rob and I race recap at Pocono. So just an FYI, I have a shitload of pictures. So just fair warning, you guys are gonna probably be like, what the hell? But it's gonna be fun. Rob and I had a blast, and I've actually been trying to, while Bobby was on there, I was trying to send pictures to the Facebook page so that way I could pull them up because we had some pretty nifty things going on. So with further ado, segment 2 is brought to you by Spartan Waste. And we're going to start this off with the famous paint scheme. So,
Yeah, that car looked awesome on track. I know it stuck out.
How do I
you
get
could
one of
see it.
those?
how do you get
I've
one
got
of
it.
these?
Yeah, I got everything else in my basement. How don't I have a life-size Jeremy Clements in my basement?
Okay, first of
So,
all, I'm gonna
yeah.
show this. I'm gonna show this picture. That thing is like basketball, Jeremy.
That
That's
is
what
it.
they were. That's what the. I think it was Mark Nelson that said
No,
that,
it's Mark Mullen.
or it was Mark Mullen. Yeah. So you see Jeremy standing next to the picture, and he goes, "That is basketball, Jeremy, the 6'6" version."
I'm not even
It was
kidding.
funny.
So I'm gonna show you this picture. So guys, we this is what they did at the dinner. So this is the group of us. So this is actually at the Rustic Kitchen studio set where they do the live show.
Yeah, they do a live cooking show on Friday and Saturday nights where a professional chef prepares I think it was a 4-course meal or whatever live on like a TV thing, and then they eat, the people that attend eat the stuff. I know several of Ryan Ellis's crew members
They
or
were there
team
too.
members were at that dinner
So
that
that
night. We had ran into them.
So this was our first picture. Here is the picture with the basketball size Jeremy compared to Jeremy. And Jeremy is right here if everybody can't see him. So that was dinner.
That was the wine room where a majority of the people sat, and then Bobby, Adrian, and I, along with John,
John, Dave, and
tuner, and then Dave, the tire person, and then Mark Mullen sat out at a table by ourselves outside the door there of the room.
Yeah, we were right up along here. So here's these pictures are from my cell phone, so please don't criticize too much, but I think they came out fantastic. This is right before practice. Area 51, Beach Ridge, Alliance, Impel Unions right here. Fox Sports, Spartan Waste, Nordic Logistics. And then we got this picture here. So I was actually informed while we were there that this up here is from the Pocono actually built that to copy the Kentucky Derby.
Yeah, Churchill Downs.
Yeah. So we have that picture there. This is another picture. I took a bunch, so it's probably going to be close to be. This is a mat that Matt Man Designs made. Chad from Matt Man Designs. Came out really great.
Amazing mat too. I mean, the quality of it and thickness and everything, very, very impressive industrial grade mat.
Yeah.
That looks awesome.
Well, here's Jeremy in practice. You got Fast Pasta right there.
That would be John, the
Yeah, John's standing
tuner.
there next to the car. There's Mark and Rob. Denny Hamlin's poster back here. I don't know how that happened like that, but that was actually pretty cool that it blurred everything out and brought us
Yeah.
up. There is Jeremy and Josh Balicki. And if you, Richmar Florist Racing right here. And these are all practice pictures. This picture right here. I don't know how I managed to pull it. Jeremy was freaking cruising when I took this picture. But it was really neat to be able to get the Pocono Mountain sign, the Pocono banner, and then right at victory or right at the start finish line. That was
Plus
pretty,
the Chevy logo.
yeah, plus the Chevy logo. Yeah, it came out really good. This is after practice, getting ready for qualifying.
That I believe is Jeremy's dad standing on the wall there, Tony.
Yeah, it is. Rob and I standing there while everybody's working on the car.
Adjusting air pressures, doing something, for the team.
We were guarding the tires.
Yeah, Jeremy was putting stickers on so we took pictures of him putting stickers on the car.
So this is right before qualifying. Jeremy actually is working on the car, putting stickers over the vents and stuff that they are required by NASCAR rules to do, which you didn't see other drivers doing that. They had their crew doing it, and Jeremy's out there working on his car, which is a testament to him and his team.
This is the one with Tig, Rob, and I. As Tig right before Tig signed some stuff for Rob and I.
Now, cool story about Tig. On Friday, they had the hauler in the pits, and Tig crawled up in where above the top part of the trailer where the backup car and the race car go.
Fell asleep.
And he fell asleep in the trailer, and they forgot he was in there and locked the door and left. And then they realized, oh, Tig is in the trailer. We got to let him out.
They didn't leave the track. They just left the area, and they had to
Just
go
the
back
area,
and
yeah.
unlock it.
But yeah, they forgot he was up there sleeping, and yeah, I wish we would have took a picture. It's not that big of an area, and
No.
with how hot it was, I have no idea how he was able to sleep.
So then you got Tig, myself, Rob, and Adrian. This picture right here, Rob and I were ecstatic about. Jeremy and you can see Dave back here having fun. But Jeremy reached down with the professional photographer standing there and got down on his knee and pointed down at the logo. It was the coolest thing ever. Nobody asked him to do it. He just went down and did it. It was super cool. And then we were able to get in the picture with him.
And by the way, if you look at that picture, I'm actually kneeling down. So my old ass was able to get down onto the ground and kneel.
He had a hell of a time getting up. That was funny.
We almost had to, call for assistance, but I managed.
So
Get the flat jack. Get the flat jack.
I almost have to push the life alert button. Help me, I've fallen, I can't get up.
So then you got, this is during the race. Beth took the picture of all of us on the pit box. Obviously, I was listening to Jeremy racing. These two didn't. They were just watching the race.
Well, I was sitting next to Mark Setzer, so like right in front of us, right above our heads,
Was all
is
the
the monitors and then the computer screens that have all the data and stuff that Mark uses to track fuel and all that kind of stuff.
and then
So
this
I was watching that stuff. I thought that was interesting.
This is Beth. There's the pit crew with Mark Setzer.
Those are good guys. They
Well, absolutely. You guys
several
will
of
see,
them ended up staying with us, and
Yeah, you guys will see some more pictures later. Don't spoil it, Rob.
no, I'm not. I'm just saying that they're really good dudes.
Here we're watching everybody get the car ready for qualifying. National anthem. If you look right here, Rob, Adrian, and I are right here on the pit box.
Yep, you can definitely see Adrian's pink shirt.
Yep.
And if you look close, she has a pink Chevy hat on too. I just want to say that.
Yeah, I bought her a Chevy hat. Shut up.
Had a girl.
So then this is on Sunday. I got sent this. My buddy Matt. He sent me a picture of where he was at, and I said, "Man, that would have been cool." I didn't even think about going down there and putting Area 51 Racing Podcast on there. He sends me a picture. He grabbed somebody's Sharpie and wrote Area 51 Racing Podcast on the start finish line.
That is so cool.
That is epic. So this is Jeremy running out of the whatever you call it for driver intros. I thought that was really cool. Now, when we said that the guys stayed the night, all we can say is Booze Pop did their thing. That was
Woody,
awesome.
this is
Woody.
your commercial. I guess we didn't really do a commercial, but we
This
took
is
some
the
photos
promo.
for you for a potential commercial.
Yeah. So Brandon's in the middle of getting his tattoo. Downstairs, the tattoo artist was there, and we all decided to get the Booze Pops out and have some. You could tell Brandon's face, and he's sitting there like, man. But yeah, we
But those
definitely had-
those guys with Bobby are 4 of the 6 guys on the pit crew.
yeah, they were definitely a blast to hang out with. We played some pool, had some fun, and I'll show you some pictures further down of what we had for dinner. When you talk about having a feast, we definitely had a feast.
Yeah, I got FaceTime during grill time,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there eating a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, hold on. They're in there. So here's all of us hanging out with Beth. Beth even got involved in it.
That's the Booze Pop salute.
Yep. Now, you see this little hero card right here? We are talking about printing those up and then all 3 of us signing them and doing them as a giveaway. So just down the road. Here's Jeremy, Rob, myself, and Adrian. This is right before the race. All right. All right, here we go. So then you got this picture right before the race. This is the actual photo from the photographer. I got this enlarged.
Now, if I can ask a question, since I wasn't there, they always talk about getting the cars cooled down from, especially on the Xfinity level, where they do it all in such a short span. What type of effort goes into cooling these cars off
So
within 2 hours of going from practice, qualifying to race?
So from what I've seen is that they have this machine that hooks up to the car, and you dump like 6 bags of ice into it, and it cools it down.
It
Okay.
circulates the antifreeze, the water in the radiator and the engine block. It circulates it through to cool it down, And then after that was done, they actually impounded the cars lined up outside the Xfinity garage.
Okay.
So they had like an official stand there with the cars.
So here's Brittany, here's Mark Nelson. This is Mark's son. You got Ward Burton right here.
The mayor.
So
Mhm.
there's Jeremy. That's after practice. Why does it keep doing that? So the NASCAR official here just told Jeremy he needed to have a helmet on. So Mark took his helmet off and was putting it on Jeremy and said, "Here, now he's got a helmet on."
And if anybody's ever met Jeremy, Jeremy's got the most perfect hair at all times that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Now,
Perfect hair, perfect beard.
all I
Make
can
them say,
is,
golly.
yeah, exactly.
I was gonna say golly also. Yep. 100%.
I'm about to share a picture nobody knows, not too many people know, I should say. I am, in fact, a Denny Hamlin fan. I'm gonna say it, I'm gonna show it. I'm tired of hearing that I look like Denny Hamlin. I heard it all weekend. All the pit crew guys said it, Best said it. But there is Denny and I at the track.
Which one's
I-
Denny?
I can't tell a difference.
I can't either.
But anyways, it was fine. I finally was able to meet my favorite driver in the Cup Series.
Well, I'm sorry you had to do that, Bobby.
Super nice guy. He actually looked at Rob and Rob and I's polos and said, "I'm gonna have to listen to that show."
He did. I was surprised. I shook his hand, wished him luck, and he actually was a really nice guy.
So then we got Jonathan Morrissey here.
From Richmar Florist.
Yep.
And
then
I
we
did
got-
follow through and I gave him the photo of Ryan Elsa's car from Road America that I told him I would.
Then we got Josh Balicki, myself, Jonathan, and Rob. I got a picture with Ward Burton.
Warburton.
And
The
and
Caterpillar Dodge.
And all I can say is, man, I tell you what, it was really hard to understand him, but geez, it was really cool to meet him.
So, do you want me to tell the story about
No,
my
just
meeting?
just leave it alone.
It's nothing bad.
So Rob almost spilled a drink on freaking Ward Burton because he freaking popped his hand real good, and he freaking the drink came up and he had red Kool-Aid, so he almost put it all over his nice dress shirt.
So, what happened is I get a picture with him and I thank him, and he has his Gatorade in his hand, and he starts moving his hand forward. So I put my hand here, and when he hit it, it shot up. So I was like, I apologized to him. I mean, I didn't move my hand forward or anything. It's just the motion of his hand hitting mine shot the Gatorade up, and then I'm thinking, oh my God, I just got Gatorade all over Ward Burton.
The only benefit I could have seen that is Bobby would have probably gave him his shirt, and then we would have had Mr. Burton wearing an Area 51 polo.
That is true. But I must say, he was a super nice guy. He didn't get mad, didn't say anything. He just went like this, shook his shoulders and stuff. So, and then that's the man, the myth, the legend.
Yep, I got to hang out with the old Cap Houston. Rob was kind of salty for a hot second because I got to see him before he did. He's like, "Come on!" So that was funny.
Yeah, I was bummed that I didn't get to see him and say hi, but things worked out. Like I always say, good things come to those who wait.
I got to hang out with Sam Mayer. This is an upcoming guest, Hollywood.
It's Sam's hauler driver, and then he
it's
sometimes,
Justin Allgaier's hauler driver.
or I'm sorry, Justin Allgaier's hauler driver, and then sometimes is a pit crew member in the truck series. Sounds like
We almost got to go to Victory Lane. He told me that if Justin Allgaier won the race, to grab Beth and go down to Victory Lane and we were gonna be able to hang out with them guys. That would have been epic. But as you know, Cole Custer had to spoil it. This is qualifying. This is my buddy Matt who did the shout out for us, and I'll show the shout out here in a little bit. We got to hang out. It was really nice. Brianna, I got to see her. She's gonna come on the show at some point. I was really excited to see her. I haven't seen her in a couple years. This is Tig, Marsha McFadden, and then all of us. In front of
Marshall
Jeremy's-
was one of Jeremy's pit crew members. Was it? Last year was his
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah, him and Cap Houston are on the 31.
Yeah, Parker Retzlaff for Jordan Anderson Racing.
Yeah, got to hang out with Josh Williams.
Another-
super laid back guy.
Yep.
So this picture here, I am handing Jeremy the 1 of 1 printing plate of the Spartan Waste and Fox Sports fire suit. He's like, I'll sign that for you, and I was like, no, I'm giving it to you. And there's where we're taking the picture, and that's the printing plate that I gave him. Got to meet Matt Collick. That was really neat. He's from Ohio.
Is he as pumped up as he always looks?
Yes, he's hype. He is very hype. I was like, hey Matt, can I get a picture with you? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, geez, man.
Saw that
Yeah,
Celsius.
him and Chris Rice are always hyped up, and they're super nice people.
Then we got Brandon over here putting the pit sign up. And
Yeah.
He's got the hook 'em horns sign.
yeah, I yelled at him. I said, hey, Brandon. He goes, yeah. Freaking gave me the hook 'em. There's the car, which that's an awesome picture. I love it. Adrian told me to get out there and take a picture, so I took that picture.
And
Right.
while we're talking, we actually got to meet Michael Michelli, who
Yeah,
obviously
I'm
is
getting there.
designer of the cars too. So that was really cool too.
I'm getting there, Rob.
Okay.
Adrian and I in front of the car. No, come on. This stupid thing. All this stupid thing stuff. There we go. So now there's Michael. Mark Nelson, Ryan Delaney, Mark Mullen. Now this is all the sponsors that are on the car this weekend, or this past weekend. We've got the sponsor for Nordic Logistic. We've got Mark, Matt from Beach Ridge, Jeremy, Ryan, myself, Rob, and Mark Mullen, Dave, and John back here. Then they got the NASCAR official. Team getting ready for right after the national anthem. Brandon being goofy.
I know it's hard to believe, but yep.
Yeah, it was funny.
Fresh tattoo and all.
Yeah, he was sweating it. He sweated out pretty good. So then we got Jeremy going around the track. Sorry, it's a little blurry. There's Tig and Beth. Some of the pictures came out really clear. Some of them did not. This dang thing. Wonder if I can actually just go like this. Yeah, I can. So this was during a pit stop. If you look, you can actually see that the Fox Sports logo is peeling up right here. I noticed that during the race.
You know what? I never even realized that
Yeah.
until
Yeah,
now. You just said that.
Yeah,
it
so
only got worse.
so it was peeling up here, and it was actually peeling up on the roof too.
Yeah, I saw that after the race as well.
So this picture right here is right when the gas can almost got stuck, and Brian had to yank that thing out of there.
Yeah, that was
That was epic.
a hell of an athletic move and save by him. I mean, he was like a third of the way from going out of the pit box attached to the gas can and the
Yeah.
car.
So there's one of the tire rubs that it. I thought that was pretty neat. And that is after he got spun.
Compliments of Riley Herbst, number 98, Monster Energy car, going to the
Mr.
outside
outside and dooring him off of turn 2 and
Yeah.
putting him in the wall.
So that car was definitely beat up, but I will say 30th place and no laps down, I'll take it. Jeremy was safe. Nobody was hurt. And you can see that the big chunks right here that were taken out of it. Lee actually got those. There's the car after the fact. Our logo again with Beech Ridge. That's the passenger side of the car.
That's Riley
That is-
Herbst's trademark.
Yeah, Riley. I never touched him. Okay.
But
There's-
if I remember right, Riley had a pretty good milkshake going on by the end of the race. So
Yeah. So
He-
there's
karma's a bitch.
no, that was Ty Gibbs.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Ty Gibbs.
Okay, I just saw the monster car.
So that's the rear of the car. This is us trying to pick it up so we could actually get the jack underneath the car. And you'll see it. We're still trying to get it. There's Rob yanking on the other side.
Look at those guns.
Right, single-handedly picked up the passenger side of the car.
I did. Yep.
So then this is the Cup cars qualifying it. That's Matt's view. Matt took that picture from up in the stands and came down. Adrian and I just sitting at the chairs. There's Lee with Rob and I. Jeremy with the car. That was before before they pushed him out for the race.
Yeah, it was an impound.
So there's I really like that picture. It came out awesome. That picture too. What turn for? There's Brandon and I Saturday night. So Dave, I'll let you.
Come on, Playboy. Come on, Playboy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
If that doesn't have Driven Sunglasses commercial written on it, I don't know what does.
so Matt from Beech Ridge, I got to give him credit for this one. I did not know anything about it. He actually sent it to me after the fact, but I sat there looking at Justin Allgaier's car, and I was just focused on that for a hot second. And I went to turn over, and he's like snapping pictures, and he got real close to me, and I went, "Jesus, what are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm taking your picture, man." And then he sent me that, and I was like, "Holy hell, that came out really good." So
Now, Bobby, how can I get a pair of those Driven Sunglasses?
you can go to drivensunglasses.com. Make sure you type in that Area 51 Racing for that 20% off, and get yourself a pair of P1s or man, I tell you, I like those slide jobs. Those things are really nice.
Ladies and gentlemen, you put on a pair of Driven Sunglasses, you may or may not look like that man right there, Mr. Playboy himself, Bobby.
Now, as you can tell, we're having a blast, man. That's all. Like everybody says, it's family.
Now, are those
I mean-
Runner's Roost shoes?
Do what?
Are those Runner's Roost shoes?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
He's got
I'm
a
always,
pair of
I'm always
those, Bobby.
representing.
Runner's Roost shoes on, and they both got, Tig's got his driven sunglasses on.
So then this is where Jeremy's getting ready to go out for a race. The 91 stalled, so everybody was going around it. All right, so I'm sorry for this. It's not gonna be.
But he's there. We hope you've had a Bud Light or two as well.
Good morning, Tom and Mark. I'm not sure if I've had that. I've had quite a few coffees and energy drinks to keep the momentum going from this morning. But if you come to the Tricky Triangle, you have to check out the infield. It's very exciting. There are some people, I'm sure, you'll have some great stories if you run into. But you also run into some great families. And I have Matthew Emmerich here with me from Montoursville. And you have a great group of people. Who do you have with you?
Yes, I have some friends here with me and some of their kids here. And I'm excited to be with Bobby Peters and Area 51 Racing podcast, who is sponsored on the Jeremy Clemens car for the Xfinity race.
Oh, that's awesome. And you guys have been coming.
I gotta give a shout out to Matt. That was awesome. He told me we're on our way from Ohio. I'm just getting we're picking up Adrian, and he sends me this, dude. I was just on the news, and then I get this text message, and I'm like, this is awesome. Like, how cool. So Matt, from Rob, myself, and Dave, thank you for doing that. That was awesome. We can't thank you enough. Here is Jeremy's pit stop. Here's a better one. Now, this is what we had for dinner Saturday night. And when I say we had a feast, we had a feast.
That was good.
Matt says you are all welcome. So, yeah, that was those are Amish steaks. The 8 on the right. And then the other ones, Joseph Anselitz came over and he brought those. Man, I'm telling you, we had a hell of a feast. I mean, that's what they look like after the fact. We got that Joseph Anselitz cooking, man. I'm telling you.
Chef Anselitz.
He
And then
said
I was
the meat
inside
pound.
with his wife, Amber,
Amanda.
or Amanda. I knew I was going to do that. I apologize, Amanda. Amanda making 3 pounds of Smithfield bacon with bourbon, brown sugar seasoning on it. Turned out amazing. But we almost set the fire alarm off because of all the smoke. But yeah, it was a lot of fun and well worth it.
All right, so I am going to play this. It's 2 minutes long, and then we're gonna let Rob do the recap, and then we're gonna bail out of here. He said she's not watching. So, anyways, Jeremy gave us a shout out on
Sirius XM radio.
Sirius XM. So here we go.
Ready to tackle the Pocono Mountains and the Tricky Triangle. That's what it's all about today.
Pat, thanks for having me on the show as always, man. And really excited to be back in Pocono. This is one tricky triangle, like you said, and it's a lot of fun for a driver and
to you, but it's a big old racetrack and 3 very unique turns.
Man, you could about fall asleep going down the front stretch here, Pat. This place is long as hell, man. It's crazy how long that front stretch is. I mean, you're looking down and you can't even see the end of the other end of it when you get off turn 3. You kind of got to have it all here. I mean, you got to be as fast as Xfinity Mobile to get down the straightaway. You got to have great engine, great aero, and then you got to handle good on top of all that. Plus, have some good brakes because, boy, when you're getting on those brakes going into turn 1 at 190 miles an hour plus, you need to be slowing down because this track's not that banked. So it's a hell of a track, one that I enjoy.
Final thing, and that's just, once again, I salute the folks that put together the wrap on the car. The car looks fabulous, and I know it'll look good, especially if you can get that thing up front and run it hard and give those guys a good ride today.
That's for sure, Pat. I really appreciate that. I mean, this is the second race for Spartan Waste there on the hood, and our good friends at Fox Sports Spartanburg. I want to thank Mark Nelson, Mark Mullen, Ryan Delaney, and all those guys. And then got some great associates on board. We got the Area 51 Racing Podcast, their first time on a car. We got Beach Ridge Barbershop. Those guys are here with us this weekend, too. And just really appreciate everybody's support. Impel Union, Alliance Driveway Solutions, Whitetail Smokeless, Chevy, of course. So without all our great partners, man, we couldn't do it. But appreciate you having me on the show, and I really can't wait. You don't miss this race. Again, I feel like I say that every week, but we just putting on so many good shows. This will be another one, and there's going to be some good racing, probably some big wrecks, and good strategy goes on.
So, yeah, overall, we had one hell of a weekend. And like I said, I really want to thank everybody that made that possible. Jeremy, Mark, Ryan, Mark, we can't thank you enough for everything that you guys did over the weekend. And we really do greatly appreciate it. I wish Dave could have been there. It would have been really cool. We're going to try to do this again next year and see if we can get all 3 of us there. And what we're trying to do is go to Darlington.
Now, do you got a picture of what I was doing this weekend?
No.
The only
No,
photo
but
I got to send to you.
No, but you can tell everybody because I wasn't gonna share your business.
This will be story time with Dave.
The story time with Dave is, as you get older, you need to stretch because even going up slight inclines can rupture your Achilles tendon. So, like I was telling the boys, things happen for a reason. I wasn't able to go to this race, but I'm really glad we didn't plan on it because unfortunately on Thursday, I was walking up a slight incline and pop, there goes my Achilles. So I'm going to be down and out for probably about 4 to 8 months with that injury. So I'm hoping to be good, better, and at least be able to walk up I didn't even think about it, the incline at Atlanta to get up to row 69. So we can have a good time watch Jeremy race the car up there and the Mark Martin's paint scheme.
So Dave, like I messaged you before, if I have to, I'll fly down there and I'll carry you up to your seats on my back.
And he would be my bodyguard and I would be your Whitney Houston.
Oh, Jesus. All right, enough. Jesus.
Yes.
So, Rob, it's 9:50 already. if you can make the segment 3 short and sweet.
Is that possible for me?
Yeah, we're gonna have to make it because we're
No,
going on almost 2
it
hours.
actually is. So the Xfinity Series race recap from Pocono Raceway for Jeremy Clements Racing, brought to you by Action RV. Jeremy practiced P26, qualified P24. Stage 1, basically his handling was an issue. He was super tight, which was a theme throughout the whole race. Stage 2, that super tight handling issue continued, and then his brakes started to fade. Pit at the end of the stage, Jeremy ended up cutting that orange pit back pit box marker angle in the corner of the pit box where you can put two wheels below it, but you can't go all of the wheels below the line if the pit box is occupied. Parker Kligerman with the 48 car was in the pit box to Jeremy's where he would come in to enter his pit. They were in their pit box pitting, and Jeremy cut the corner a little too much, and actually just barely missed running over the front tire changer's feet. So he got a penalty, a safety violation penalty. So he had to start stage 3 at the tail end of the field. He actually had a decent car in stage 3. Still had a little tightness issues. He was up to P11 at one point. They played the fuel strategy game pretty well. And with 15 laps to go in the race, Riley Herbst went to the outside of Jeremy off of turn 2. Mason Massey was below Jeremy coming up, and Riley, I don't know why, but basically doored Jeremy and made him go spin into the wall, I should say. And then he came back down the track a little bit. Mason Massey wrecked trying to avoid Jeremy. And at that point, Jeremy came in, and, you know, we talk about the pit crew and Mark Setzer and the team, how they you know, are so dialed in and so good at what they do. By being able to sit on the pit box and watch from like firsthand perspective, instead of just listening to it every week on a scanner, it just was amazing how good they are and how good they communicate with one another. And they were able to get that car repaired on a couple pit stops, and were able to meet minimum speed and get off the DVP clock. It was sort of funny when Jeremy first came in. The official said, "You're not going back out on the track. That rear bumper cover has got to be on the car." And Tig yelled, "It is on the car. It's still attached." The official was standing out on the track, the pit road side, and he couldn't see that it was still attached on the left rear side of the car. It was just crumpled together. So they were able to put bear bond on it, and they got the car back out on the track. But fortunately, that left rear quarter panel was like a parachute because it was sticking out, and they had cut a little bit off. But the pit crew guys just they made so many adjustments during the race that people don't. I guess people that would see would think they're slow, but the amount of stuff that they do we're doing in every pit stop would blow your mind. I mean, changing packers, adjusting shocks, doing the normal tire changes and tear offs and drinks and adjustments and stuff. It just they're a good group of guys, and so they got Jeremy back out on the track. He was on the lead lap. Unfortunately, ended up finishing P30. And you could tell after that happened, everybody, including us, were pretty dejected because he definitely had a top 10 to 15 car. I mean, for sure, if not better. It just bad luck. It sucks. Excuse me. One other thing, a funny little story. While sitting on the pit box, I happened to look at my weather app, and there was a storm coming in, and Mark Setzer, the crew chief, was sitting next to me, and they don't have the weather stuff going on. So I wanted to let them know, hey, the weather's in the area, so they could use strategy stuff. And so I showed him, and he later goes, after the pit stop and stuff was done, he goes, "If you said that R word, I was going to kick you off this pit box. We're tired of that R stuff." So, but fortunately, it didn't.
He was being straight up serious. It was freaking hilarious because he looked at it and he goes,
I didn't even say it. I just showed it to him.
Goes,
just
"You
so
can
he
get
knew.
right off my pit box right now."
Yeah. So, but I I also, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank Mark Nelson, Mark Mullen from Spartan Waste, Ryan Delaney from Fox Sports Spartanburg, and then Jeremy Clements and his whole team. We're just this little podcast of 3 race fans and guys, and we were fortunate enough to be able to get enough funding together to be able to be on his race car, and they opened their arms like we were part of the family. And I will never forget that moment for the rest of my life. And the amount of love that, in a sense, that they showed to us was amazing, and it's just a true testament to the people that they are. So again, thank you all for everybody that helped out to raise those funds through our giveaways or the square raffles and donation raffle or whatever it was we called it. I can't remember, but either way, thank you to everybody to make that possible. I had a great time this weekend. I am sore and I'm extremely tired still.
Yeah.
But I do it all over again. It was well worth it. The only thing, like Bobby said, we missed was you, Dave. We wish you were there to experience it with us. So
we're definitely gonna try to do this again next year, at least for one race, so we can get you in there, so you can experience what we experienced, because it was absolutely the best experience ever. And I wrote this on Facebook, and I'm just gonna read it because I know that everybody watches. So Jeremy, Mark, Ryan, everybody from JCR, Jeremy's mom, I know you're watching. I greatly appreciate everything you do. I would like to express my gratitude to Jeremy Clements Racing for hosting us at their team dinner and providing an unforgettable weekend. We thoroughly enjoyed our time at Pocono and eagerly await for the opportunity to return. And with that being said, I'm going to Michigan. So I'm definitely looking forward to going back. We're trying to get Jeremy's mom, Tony on the show. Jeremy's going to be on the show sometime soon. We're booked until almost November. So I'm very excited about the way that the show is going. Once the season's over for Jeremy, we're going to take a month or so off. We'll probably have a Christmas episode. Dave will dress up like Santa Claus or something.
Or me. I mean, I got the white beard going, so, and I got the belly. So, I think it would just be appropriate.
So,
I'll be Santa's little helper.
Yeah.
So this week, they go
Bobby,
to
I want to say something else too quick. I'm sorry to cut you off. There was also a gentleman that stayed with us, that great individual, and I'm glad we got to meet him, Joe Thomas, Philly Joe Tattoo. He was there to give Brandon Henry, the crew member, his tattoo. What a great young man. And it was an honor and privilege to meet him, hear his story, see his work, and his visions on life in general. Just a great guy. And I think by the amount of people that were coming up to him at the track saying, "Hey, I want to get some tattoos with you," I told him, I said, "You're probably going to be the official tattoo artist of NASCAR."
I mean, he does tattoo some pretty big names in the NFL.
Yeah.
He is actually going to be coming up to Ohio, and he is going to do my half sleeve for the Pittsburgh theme. And while that Pittsburgh theme is getting made, I am going to do the inside of my arm with a 51. So I want to thank Joe, Rob. Thank you for coming along. Can't thank Adrian enough for coming with us. It was a blast. It was a lot of fun.
Adrian and I enjoyed giving Bobby crap.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
So
the next race is Saturday, July 20th at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They are on the oval. They are not on the road course.
The real track.
Yeah.
I think the
So-
first time since 2019, I
Yes.
think I read.
Yes,
So,
sir.
I want to give our next episode will be Tuesday, July 23rd. May or may not be here. July 23rd is Adrian's birthday, so I haven't decided whether I'm going to be here or not. If you would like to follow our podcast, follow it on Podbean, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter. Remember, t-shirts are on stickygears.com for $15. Also, Anamora Designs has the stickers, tumblers, all the goods. I want to give a shout out. Let's see. I want to give a shout out to Armadillo and TRW. They have a bunch of brand new Jeremy Clements hats, and they also have more sheet metal. I want to give a shout out to our partners who make this podcast possible. Beach Ridge Barbershop, Spartan Waste, Impel Union, Alliance Drive Waste Solutions, First Pacific Funding, Elite Towing and Recovery, Whitetail Smokeless, Fly and Farm Concrete Structures, Runner's Roost, Matman Designs, Action RV, Booze Pops, Jeremy Clements Racing, and our new, which I haven't told Rob, Nordic Logistics. So I can't thank everybody enough for everything they do. And man, it's what a hell of a weekend. I cannot wait to go to Michigan and do this all over again. It's not going to be that, obviously I won't be able to go to the team dinner and stuff like that, but just being on pit road and be able to hang out with Jeremy again, and that'll be my last race of the year. So I want to give everybody a big round of applause. Thank you for everything that you guys do. Dave, thank you. Rob, thank you. And with that being said,
Hey, Bobby, one quick thing.
yeah.
One of our listeners wants to know who won the sheet metal, the side skirt for having the photo with you first.
Oh,
At the
Lee
track.
did.
So
Lee
So
took
Lee-
Lee took the picture at the Richard Petty hat.
there you go. Lee is the winner of the Jeremy
Nope.
Clements race used side skirt.
Now, if I wanted to be picky, it could have went to Brandon Henry because he took a picture with me at 3:00 in the morning. I didn't say where it had to be. I just said somebody got to take a picture with me at race day. But
Well,
yeah,
technically that was race day.
right. So, yeah, with everything, I want to thank everybody once again. I can't thank everybody enough. Dave, Rob, I greatly appreciate everything that you guys do week in, week out. Hope that things settle down just a little bit and it's not so crazy, but this has been fun. I mean, doing that this weekend was probably the most fun I've had at a NASCAR race in a very long time.
And
Plus,
if I can add something, we did get a new addition to the Area 51 Racing Podcast, and newest member of JCR, Miss Valerie Downs, who should be coming home tomorrow. Little happy, healthy baby girl. And so Stacy, Jayla, John, that shout out's for you guys. I know I'm going to be talking to Anna, get some custom onesies made, and we'll get the hook up for that little girl. Sure.
Congratulations from all of us here at Area 51 Racing Podcast. I did see that post, Dave.
Congratulations.
Yep, congratulations.
So with that being said, y'all have a good night, and we will see you next week. And don't get into the booze pops too much.
All right.
It's a veteran underdog ice cream truck. Booze pop, baby, it's booze pop, baby. Bringing people together. One booze pop at a time. Let's go. We're gonna rock out with our pops out, baby. It's the only pop that keeps you warm. You can rock out
still go to boozepop.com.
Y'all have a good night. We will see you next week.
All right, y'all. Thank you.
See ya.